Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Topher Drives, where this week I've been daily driving the brand new and slightly controversial third generation 2026 Mazda CX-5. And like I said with my RAV4 video that I did a couple of weeks ago, this is rare because the last generation of Mazda CX-5 went on for 9 model years. So new generations of this car don't come around very often. In fact, this is only the third generation of the car since it has existed. So this is a pretty big deal, and I've been taking all of this in because Mazda has kind of changed their philosophy with this car. They've kind of been this driver-focused brand that really accentuated physical controls in the interior, and this is really the first car that kind of steps away from that. And of course we'll get into way more detail once we're actually in the interior of this, but I want to start on the outside because this is brand new, of course, for 2026, as we've said a couple of times now already, but they've kind of kept this looking pretty much the same on the outside as the second generation. In fact, you probably could have told me that this was just a facelifted version of the Gen 2 CX-5 and I would have believed you, but I don't really think that's a bad thing. I think they've done this just about right, and they've kept my favorite part of the CX-5, which is the soul red crystal metallic paint, which we have here today on this Premium Plus model. But they've kind of just done little touches here and there. We've got new wheels, new front and rear fascias. The body itself, though, looks pretty much the same. No Mazda badge anymore on the back. We have, well, I guess it is still a Mazda badge technically, but no Mazda logo, I should say, on the back. We now have this Mazda script spelled out, which a lot of companies have been doing lately. Lexus is doing this now as well, so I think this may be a trend that we see going into the late 2020s and maybe 2030s. But also love the taillights on this. I think they've kept this simple enough, and for their big volume seller, I think they played it safe for the exterior, and it still looks good. Now, I mentioned this is a Premium Plus. As tested today, this is about $41,000. Premium Plus starts at $38,990, and it gets you the bigger screen on the inside. It gives you the power-activated lift gate. You get these gloss black wheel arches. These are on Premium and Premium Plus, but higher trims get those, and a couple of other things that we'll have down in the description for you. But the Mazda CX-5 for 26 on a base level does actually start under 30 grand, $29,990. So $10 under 30. I think by the time you do destination and stuff, you're probably going to be a little over $30,000. But what do you get for all of that? What is under the skin of this new Mazda CX-5? Well, similar to how the exterior doesn't look a whole lot different, they haven't really changed anything under the skin either. In fact, your only powertrain option right now in 2026 is the same 2.5 liter Skyactiv naturally aspirated inline 4-cylinder engine that you got with the first and second gen. So this engine has actually been in the CX-5 since 2013. 13 model years this has been, or 14 model years this has been in this car. Now it makes 187 horsepower, 186 pound-feet of torque. It's still connected to the 6-speed automatic transmission, and every new CX-5 is all-wheel drive. This could be looked at as good, this could be looked at as bad. They did the same thing with the CX-30. The only kind of bummer is it takes from the efficiency. Now this is only rated at about 26 mpg combined, and I'm thinking about that RAV4 that I was driving a couple of weeks ago that was a hybrid and was getting over 40 mpg all week. This so far has only been doing about 23 for me over the last few days of driving it. So we'll poke around this. I actually want to start up front. We'll show you the engine since we just talked about that. I'll give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek at this Tesla-fied interior, but we'll get to that a little bit later because we don't want to be beating a dead horse. But we'll pop the hood here. Now, I can see the argument for keeping this engine because they want to play it safe. They want to keep something that's proven, that's reliable, and sure, it may be a bit underpowered. This is a 3,800 pound SUV that's all-wheel drive and has to make do with only 187 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. But all of the research and tech, everything is just done for this engine. So technicians are going to know how to fix it. You know, it's just easy stuff. Now, Mazda does say that a hybrid is coming next year for 2027. It's a Mazda-developed in-house hybrid system. It's not the Toyota system that they have in the CX-50 hybrid right now. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see if maybe we get a power bump, if we get an efficiency bump. I just think they should have come out of the gate blazing with this powertrain and a hybrid. Now, the biggest bummer for 26 is the turbo is gone. The 2.5 turbo that did the 300 and whatever pound, 320 pound-feet of torque or whatever it was, that is now completely gone, which I think was a bit bigger of a deal with the CX-5. You know, I could see them ditching it out of the CX-30 and we'd all live with it, but this is a bigger, heavier SUV, so it was nice to have that turbo powertrain. So that may also be something we see come back in the future, but as for now, this is it. So you're limited to 5 trim levels. You have the base, the select, the preferred, the premium, and the premium plus like we have here. This one gets, let's see if I can get this to open with my foot. I don't know where the little thing is. I always struggle with these because it's always in a different place. You never know where to activate it. Oh, I think I did it. I did it. I didn't press the button. Okay, so it must be over on the right-hand side. That is something you get with Premium Plus, so had to show that off. Little privacy shade back here, and honestly, this car redeems itself in some ways. We do have a compact spare, and since this is Premium Plus, we get the 12-speaker Bose that comes on Premium and Plus, so that is quite nice. We'll probably do a discussion here at the end of the video with like what trim level I would actually get with this car. Love the way these seats fold down, and load surface is pretty low. These fold just about flat, so you just have a ton of room in this thing. A lot more room than you get in a CX-30 or a Mazda 3, which is what makes the CX-5 so attractive, why it's the volume seller. But what I really like actually about this new generation is that they've kept it pretty much the same. They haven't made it massive. It still looks dimensionally like a CX-5. So many companies these days are making everything a couple inches bigger every year until they then have to replace it with a new model that's called something different because they lose that part of the market, but the CX-5 is still a CX-5. We'll jump in the back and sit on our sport tan leather. Quite nice. Shut the doors there. Those feel pretty nice, pretty quiet in this cabin. Materials feel pretty good. Thinking back to that RAV4 again, this definitely does feel like a step up as far as materials go. And we'll probably be making references to that RAV4 throughout this video just because it was only 2 weeks ago that I had it, so it's fresh in my mind. Fold down, very squishy armrest with some cup holders and a squishy surface as well for your elbow here on the rear door panel. Other amenities in the back seat, climate vents. You've got 3-stage heated rear seats and 2 USB-C ports, also 2 seat back pockets. This, of course, is all-wheel drive, as we mentioned, so there's a drivetrain hump in the middle, but geez, these seats are just so squishy and cozy. I think you could put an adult here for a short trip and they'd be fine. Long trip though, you definitely want to treat this car as a 4-passenger, maybe a small child in the middle. Pano roof here on this Premium Plus, gray headliner. I think a black headliner would have looked nicer in here with these black backed seats and black accents on the door panels and things. It would have just made this look a bit sportier. But anyway, let's talk tires before we go up front. Now, this is actually an interesting choice for a tire. It's a Toyo Open Country HT. I assume that means highway terrain, in a 225/55 R19 squared setup. Now, this is a little bit bigger of a wheel than you get on the top trim RAV4. Toyota will sell you a 20, but I think a 19 with a 55 section sidewall is still okay. You know, this is not a massive wheel that's going to be crashing out over potholes and things. And plus, they look really good. You know, I'm usually not the biggest fan of black wheels, but Mazda usually does this pretty well. I think they kind of complement the rest of the gloss black accents on this car, the mirror caps, the wheel arches, some of this trim in the front here. They're still kind of employing this sporty nature, which I do hate the word sporty, but this does lean more towards that end of the spectrum versus a RAV4. You know, a RAV4 is set up for lightness and comfort, and the CX-5 is a little bit more engaging. So let's jump in. We'll show you the most controversial bit of this car, and then we'll go for a drive and we'll show you what that's like. But up front, okay, this is the biggest change for the CX-5, and when I sit in this car, I really don't even feel like I'm sitting in a Mazda. In fact, the only thing up here that reminds me of the old car is this mechanical shifter here for the 6-speed auto. Everything else is completely different. So let's close the door. It's pretty dang quiet in here. I always like to use that as a point of judgment. Listen outside, close the door, listen inside. So, all right. Another thing, no more 8 blings. So let's start this up and show you the new chime. So it only chimes 4 times, and it's very sort of calm and reserved. I suspect some owners of CX-5s and CX-30s were complaining that the 8 blings in a row were a bit much. Emily has mentioned that a few times in her 3 years of owning a CX-30 turbo. But anyway, that's a bit more peaceful now. That I'm okay with. But then you look for any sort of trace of a physical button, and all you come up with is a hazard switch, which is actually pretty cool. It blinks on the sides there. A front defrost and a rear defrost. That is it. Everything else is gone. There's no longer a volume knob down here. There's no longer a separate climate control panel. There's no longer memory seat switches over here on the left. They got rid of everything. Even the window switches are just these little guys now that really don't feel like much. I mean, at least they're still there and they haven't pulled a Volkswagen and gotten rid of half the window switches. But this is such a huge departure from what we're used to. And it's been a lot to get used to this week. And I've tried to give it a chance, but it's been a bit buggy and I don't know that it's right. For instance, you can see Google Maps just isn't working. This has been a problem all week. It's just been a white screen. So I've been using Apple CarPlay, which for some reason I have to manually connect every time I get in. Now, it never has a problem connecting. It does it in like 3 seconds, and then I have CarPlay. As you can see here, that is wireless. Got wireless Android Auto as well. But then when the music comes on, there's no sort of quick access for the volume. So you can either tap this here and hope that that works right and do your volume that way, or you have these little buttons on the steering wheel that control volume that I'm also not the biggest fan of. Now, speaking of the infotainment, obviously it's completely new, and for Premium Plus, you get this absolutely gargantuan 15.6-inch infotainment screen. I mean, think about the one we had before. It was this little baby screen on the dash that we had, that we controlled with the command control knob. Boy, do I miss it. Man, I miss the volume knob. All that stuff. They've just gotten rid of it. And in a way, it feels like a bit of a slap in the face because Mazda had some really nice feeling controls. You know, the knobs on the climate panel, the command control knob, they all had nice clicks. The knobs were knurled. They felt high quality. And they've just gotten rid of all of it. For what? I mean, in the name of cost cutting, trying to look like a Tesla in here? I don't get this trend right now. Give me physical controls. It's all I want. Okay, here's another thing. If I want to turn my heated seats on, you have to go into a separate menu. I understand that this is easy to access and okay, fine. Everything seems to react pretty quickly. But what was wrong with the buttons that were right here? Why does it have to be in the infotainment? Apologies for the crash out. You can at least play Forza Vista here on the screen and swipe around a CX-5 here on the main menu. And you can actually toggle what you want to have on this home screen. Right now I have navigation, but you can also make this your eye active sense. You can drag that over here and you can see a live view of your driver assist and stuff. But whatever. I mean, this home screen, I just run CarPlay and that is completely fine. Obviously navigation doesn't work. You've got all of these different apps in here. I mean, I think what they've tried to do here is kind of mimic BMW in the way that they have all these separate apps. And apart from this, look at the gauge cluster. What does that remind you of? That is straight out of a BMW. I mean, in fact, actually some of the new ones probably still have this style gauge cluster, but you do have a couple different views here, all of which kind of have this same sort of exterior design. But I've just been leaving it on this one with my MPG and my temp gauge because I like to keep an eye on T's and P's. Quick access to cameras in 2 places. That's on the screen and on the steering wheel. And this is funny. You can actually activate the cameras while you're on the highway, and they actually update in live time. So that's pretty cool. Cameras overall are pretty nice. And again, you know, this infotainment, it reacts pretty quickly when it's actually dialed in, when it's actually working. I haven't really had any problems with it. Sometimes you just end up missing stuff. We have a head-up display in this car. That is the first thing you see actually when you tap settings. So that's, I guess, convenient. This has a 12-speaker Bose. We mentioned that a little bit earlier. This comes on Premium and Premium Plus. The lower 3 trim models get an 8-speaker unbranded system, which if it's anything like the 8-speaker in the base CX-30, I'm sure it's fine. But the Bose is actually pretty good, and of course we will test it for you later in the video. It's got Bose center point, all the stuff. I mean, I suspect they haven't really changed this too much from the old Bose 12-speaker. Where is the back button? I think you just maybe tap back out of this. There's no like back button like, it doesn't just take you back to where you were, so you have to figure that out. Efficiency, this hasn't been very efficient. Put 84 miles on it this week. It's been doing 23.8 mpg, which is a little bit below the 26 combined rating. This is also rated at 24 city and 30 highway, so a chance for it to be a little bit more efficient. But if it's anything, again, if it's anything like the CX-30 all-wheel drive, it's not going to be quite as efficient as they claim. What did the one, Emily and I just road tripped a CX-30 2.5S to Peoria, and I think what did it get, like 30 mpg, 29, something like that. So not the most impressive. As far as places to put things, we have some 2 cup holders. You've got a blank spot for the phone there. You've got a wireless charger here, now that this has wireless CarPlay. Split folding armrest, which is big enough for a hat, which I'm using that for right now. Door panels do a pretty good job holding a cup and other things. But that's just about it. You know, there's not a whole lot of room. It's so weird because they've gone through and they've gotten rid of all the physical controls, yet they've left the shifter. You think maybe they would have put some buttons or a column shifter or something to free this up? If you're going to go tech forward, why keep the ancient shifter? It's just a weird mishmash in this car, and I don't know that it really makes a whole lot of sense. Mazda badge is gone from the steering wheel. Got the Mazda script. Again, that doesn't bother me. I think the steering wheel itself is pretty attractive as well. We'll get more into the haptic buttons. I need to get off this parking structure and actually drive the car, because driving it is when I actually like it. So let's show you these cameras one more time. Of course, into reverse, you've got a mega fisheye reverse camera there. You can even see that little California plate. And then the 360 camera can predict the future. It can see under itself. Look at that. Just like Toyota. Ah, first gen CX-5. For research purposes, there you go. Look at that. It looks about the same size as this. I'm sure we'll see a second gen on the road too. In fact, we'll probably see one in the structure, but this really doesn't even look that different from that. You know, like, they stay pretty consistent with their designs. They're kind of like Volvo in that way, where the cars are just always recognizable as a Mazda, which I can respect. Anyway, what's it actually like to drive? Sometimes you have to kill the cameras because they just stay up forever. What is this like to actually drive? Well, it still feels like a CX-5. I mean, you could blindfold me and tell me that I'm in a second gen if I'm only touching the steering wheel, and I'd probably believe you. The steering has a very medium weight to it. It's light enough to make it easy to maneuver around parking structures, but it's got a good enough weight to where if you're actually hustling this thing around corners, it's got some good feel and it's kind of fun to drive compared to other cars in the segment. The RAV4, the CR-V, what else? The Nissan Rogue. I mean, this is just the most competitive segment of all. There are just tons of cars in it. But this does still drive like a Mazda. It still feels like a Mazda. I'm going to put my lights on. I don't know why the auto lights aren't turning on here when we're in the dark. Anyway, obviously these steering wheel buttons light up. And then all of the gauges and the screens dim. But there is no physical dimmer switch, of course. You have to go into the screen and do that in the same sort of way that you do the head-up display, like I showed you guys earlier. But here we go, speed bump. No problem. Ride quality in this seems to be okay. We've got that 55 section sidewall as well on our 19-inch wheels. So all of that works together pretty well, and this is still a very nice daily drivable SUV, which is what it's supposed to be. They haven't gone too far in any direction, and they've continued to play it safe as far as driving experience goes. Turning circle seems to be okay. Overall maneuverability is fine. This doesn't feel huge because it isn't. And then obviously you've got very quick access to the cameras, which I like. I wish that there were more buttons in here, but alas. All right, let's put this window down with this weird window switch. Let's get the parking ticket. Another soul red Mazda. Ooh, and a very cool old Mercedes C-Class. Potentially an AMG. All right, let's get this pulled out of here. Sometimes hard to see, as we found out in the Toyota RAV4 night drive. Anyway, though, Mazda CX-5 out into the city. Let's actually reset our trip. I'm curious what sort of MPG this is going to get. I don't know if it's going to improve with me kind of driving this around like a grandma for the first bit of the video, or if it's going to get worse because the city rating is only 24. So we will see how it does. most things, apart from the tech, are really lovely still in the CX-5, and chief among which, all of the inputs. We talked about steering already, but throttle input, brake input, all of that is very good. It's all very natural. It's all very progressive. You're not breaking your neck taking off in this CX-5. 6-speed transmission still does what it's always done. It's very smooth. It's kind of just like a slush box, but I'm not complaining about an old school 6-speed, and check this out. It even still has the manual shifting down here on the floor, and you get paddle shifters here too in this Premium Plus. So somebody at Mazda has stuck up for us and kept some of these things that we liked about the old car. So let's talk about the 2.5 liter. Well, it's the exact same as it's been. Mazda claim that they've retuned it for 2026, but it feels exactly the same as it always has. And that can be looked at as either a good or a bad thing, as we discussed in the beginning. But the only kind of bummer with this is it does show its age in volume. It's a little bit of a buzzy engine. And the engine is mostly quiet, like under 3,000 RPM. So city driving, you're not noticing it a whole lot. Also, ride quality back there, pretty good over some of those bumps. I mean, we always take this road in every compact SUV that we commute. And this seems just about on par with everything else. It is a cozy ride, and the seat is very cozy as well. I've even got lumbar adjust over here that I've been messing with this week. We're doing a whopping 9.4 mpg so far. That's the disadvantage here of not having a hybridized powertrain, because the RAV4, for example, would have been doing about 60% of that in EV mode, and we would have still been doing probably high 20s for our MPG. Why was it telling me to brake? What did it see that I didn't see? Okay, well, anyway, what I was going to say, also there was a tornado last night, so there's just trees everywhere, so keep that in mind. What I was going to say was that the engine has a bit of a unique note to it. It's very sort of nostalgic Mazda. And that also the NVH in here isn't too bad over some of these bigger potholes. I mean, this is a pretty well insulated cabin, as we heard earlier. Ooh, big bump there, but it soaks it up all right. Everyone in the comments is like, oh, it hurts my soul to see you go through the potholes. How do you think I feel actually going through them? All you have to do is watch a screen. I actually have to live it. We're going to try and beat the Ford Edge off the line, because I'm going to try to get to the left lane away from all of the disintegrated trees in the right lane and potholes. Let's go into Sport, which is now on the steering wheel to get to your drive modes, but can't complain because it would have been on brand for them to put that in the infotainment. If you need to get this off the line, you can. You know, it's fine. Not the slowest thing in the world, and with this weighing 3,800 pounds, it's actually lighter than I would have assumed. Oh, wait, no, I don't want off-road mode. Normal mode, there we go. But it begs the question, are the drive modes really that important in a 187 horsepower compact SUV? Could they have used this slot on the steering wheel for something else? Fan speed, perhaps, or something else. I don't know. I don't know where the priorities were when it came to designing this interior. But apart from frustrating controls, what about actually sitting in this car? Well, this is kind of where Mazda has always shined. They kind of always have this nicer material in the car. So you have like this tan sport leather, we showed you that, but the elbow comfiness in here is, I think it's best in segment. I mean, there's so much squish. You can actually see it when I press my finger on the door panel, and that extends to the split folding armrest in the middle as well. It's not quite as soft as the door panel, but it's pretty close. I mean, this is seriously cozy stuff, and that's what makes these nice to road trip. Even though this engine is ancient and inefficient, it does actually idle very smoothly. This apparently has iStop, so auto stop start. There's a setting somewhere to turn it off, but I've never had it shut off at a light, so I don't know Yeah, see, iStop off. I'm not convinced this has iStop, to be honest. Mazda produces a mild hybrid version of this car in other markets, and I'm wondering if maybe that's for that car. And this one doesn't have it. It literally has not shut off a single time in the last 100 miles I've been driving this car. So maybe it's because I have the AC on. Do I have the AC on? Do I have the AC on? Yes, I do. Okay, maybe it's because the AC is on. Let's turn the AC off. Maybe it'll shut off. And it doesn't. You've also got your traction control switch. That is now in the infotainment as well. As far as the trim levels go in this car, it would be really hard for me to choose because they're all about $2,000 apart. So we mentioned the base model is just under 30 grand. The two that would be attractive to me would be the preferred trim, which honestly has most of what this has, but it doesn't have bows, it doesn't have the gloss exterior wheel arches, it's got a less cool looking wheel, and it doesn't have the nice tan leather seats in it, but it's about 5 grand cheaper than this. And it's got the same engine, the same transmission, most of the same lighting situation on the outside. It's got the same steering wheel. It's got the same sort of setup, a slightly smaller screen. Or you could get the premium, which is 3 grand less than this. That still has the bows. I think that's what I would do, because then you could be under 40 grand out the door for that, and you still have most of the features that this has. Premium Plus, I think, is a bit unnecessary. There are just a few little things you get in this. Obviously, if you want to have the massive flat screen in here, then you have to get Premium Plus, but that's just kind of how they get you with these trims. Overall driver's compartment and ergonomics in here, I like how low this center console sits down because my leg doesn't really touch it. At 5'11", I'm about 160 pounds. When my leg is resting, it's just far enough from this to where it's not resting on the hard plastic. Now, would I like to see this with a bit of leather on it? Yes, I would for my 40 grand. But I think they've designed this in an intelligent enough way where it's not as necessary as it was on the RAV4, which that was one of my biggest complaints with that car. Let's get this CX-5 merged onto the highway, and we'll show you what manners are like here, coming out of the city at 19.6 mpg. Not great, though we did do a lot of idling. So, not entirely the car's fault. I think I'm going to leave this in normal mode to merge, because we're going to merge going 40 anyway, because that's just the way things are here in Michigan. Massive entrance ramp, merge going 45. It's the way they do it. We will be able to test kick down here, because we've got a pretty open left lane here, so let's see. You know, I guess power here is adequate. I really shouldn't give this car too much grief for being slow. It is pretty slow. And the engine, yes, it's a little bit loud, but I don't think it's quite as loud as a Toyota. It's a little bit quieter, and that could have something to do with the more sound deadening here in the Premium Plus. I really wish sometimes manufacturers would put base models in the press fleet, so then we could kind of give you an idea of what, you know, the $29,000 gets you. Anyway, though, give you a second to observe our NVH here at 70 miles an hour. Not bad. I would say one of the quieter cars in the segment. Mazda usually does this pretty well. The CX-30 is also quite quiet. So you do kind of get that elevated experience when you're cruising on the highway. It feels like a more luxurious car. I'm going to clean my windshield. Washer nozzles are in the wipers, another kind of luxurious thing. Chassis feels great. Steering weight's up nice when you're doing a cloverleaf. And we'll do a little performance section at the end as well, of course. But just happy to report that it still drives like a Mazda. So they haven't abandoned that bit of their philosophy. It still feels very much unapologetically CX-5 when you drive this car. So that's a happy thing to report on. So another thing this has in the Premium Plus trim is a new bit of driver assistance. So this has lane change assist now. which is something I don't think I've seen in a Mazda. Maybe the CX-90 has it, I can't remember. But we've definitely never seen it in a CX-5. I've never found a way to disengage cruise control. It's always just on. I have no idea how to turn it off. There's no button for cruise control, so it could be in the infotainment somewhere, I don't know. But it makes it so all you have to do is click set. Just make sure you click it hard enough. And then you are set on cruise. Then you can hit this little button here on the bottom right, and that will engage your lane keep and lane change assist. So this will stay in the lane. I want you to hold the wheel, but it's got a grip sensor, so you just got to touch the wheel once. That will do the lane change for you. And it does a pretty good job, honestly. You can see you do it again, touch the wheel, and it'll do the lane change. It really wants you to hold the wheel, but it doesn't, it's not like a Hyundai where it cancels the input and then leaves you abandoned in the middle of two lanes. So I like that about it. And I also like that they didn't bury these controls in the infotainment. I mean, all of your cruise control controls are all right here on the right-hand side of the wheel. So your distance adjustment for the adaptive cruise, that's all right here. Obviously setting, resetting, the lane keep assist, that's here. Oh, and then the camera button, look at this. It's just cameras at 75 miles an hour. Look at the refresh rate. That's actually pretty impressive. And then they go away after a second, but anyway. No, the driver assistance tech here is actually pretty good. I've got no complaints with any of that stuff. All does the trick just fine. Its inputs are good too for the adaptive cruise. Let's see how it does here. Okay, so it actually, okay, not a huge fan of that. I thought it was going to start accelerating a bit more when I put my signal on, but I think that Subaru freaked it out because it was still in the left lane. So that's okay. We will just cancel the cruise control and the lane keep assist. Turn all that stuff off. And while we have a little bit of highway left, why don't we talk about the sound system, 12-speaker Bose. We'll give you a demo on that, let you hear what it sounds like. Okay, sound system is good. Hate the volume controls, obviously, but the 12-speaker Bose still has the good power, the good clarity that it's always had, and may even be segment leading. I mean, I don't know that there's really anything else that sounds as good as this Bose system. I really do still love an old school 6-speed automatic. I think we got a little bit carried away making 10-speed transmissions. It's just too many gears. I think between 6 and 8, that's the correct amount of gears. Okay, ending out our entire city and highway section MPG at 25.2. So yeah, just about the combined rating of 26. So it does just about what it's rated for. Let's bump this up into sport mode, and we will attempt to do some spirited driving. See how fast we can catch this Buick. Throttle response is actually pretty snappy here in sport. Why don't we try manual mode? And it does rev match. Check it out. A little bit of understeer there. The road is soaking wet, so can't blame it. Paddle shifters feel nice. Got a nice softness to them. You don't get an audible click, but I think that's okay. And then, of course, you can change gear down with your right hand as well. 2 ways to change gear. 2 physical ways to change gear, 0 physical ways to adjust volume or climate. It'll really give you those downshifts too, and that's impressive. Just on the edge of grip with these Toyos. Yep, and there's a semi. Okay. Yeah. You know, probably not really where this car shines in the speed department, but again, as far as actually driving it, chassis feels great, steering is great. Oh, that's the wrong side. Okay, normal. But it still drives like a Mazda. I think that's good. But all right, let's kind of wrap up our thoughts on this car, and I probably will do one more video on this for my final thoughts after I've lived with it for a few more days. But this car is confusing for me in a frustrating way because there are still so many things in here that are just unapologetically Mazda. I think they've nailed the exterior design. I think the way this car drives is still really nice. The steering, the chassis, the acceleration, the braking, the transmission, all of that is good. I think interior materials in here are nice. There's no rattles, no shakes, no shimmies. That's all pretty good. But the tech in here is just so wrong for a Mazda. I think they've gone way too far, way too fast. You know, it's one thing if you kind of have a bit of a transitionary phase, but this car was pretty much the same since 2017. And then they just went and Tesla-fied the interior completely, got rid of all the physical controls and put this massive 15.6-inch screen in here. And I just don't know that that's right for the buyer of a Mazda. I don't know that Mazda people want this. So in that way, it's just a bit weird. And it's also weird in the way that some things feel new, some things feel old. I mean, it's got the same engine that it's had since 2013. It still has the 6-speed automatic with this ancient mechanical shifter. And yet they put this screen in here that is, they put a screen in it that's 14 years newer than the powertrain. For years and years, I recommended the Mazda CX-5 to anybody that was in the market for a compact SUV. I don't know that I would anymore. And that's really sad because I love Mazdas. I think Mazda makes some of the best products on the market right now. We love the Miata, we love the Mazda 3, we love the CX-30, we love the CX-90. They're all great cars. And I hope that this is not the direction that all of the other cars are going, because we kind of relied on Mazda for physical controls. They had a really good thing going. And, you know, Mazda has some good new powertrains, and we've summoned the lawn crew today. But a good demonstration of just how dang quiet it is in this cabin. I mean, full lawnmower right there, and I can still talk at a normal volume. Anyway, you know, it's just one of those things where I'm bummed out, and I hope that this is not a trend that we see continue with Mazda. But I suppose only time will tell. And this has been our first sort of look here at this new 2026 Mazda CX-5, a car that is nice in many ways, but really frustrating in others. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. We'll give you one last look at this 26 CX-5, and stay tuned for what will probably be a night drive on this as well, with some final thoughts. But for the time being, that's going to wrap it up. Spring is here, the lawnmowers are out, and Mazda has no physical controls left. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.